Hey everyone, welcome to Fantasy Footy Fan. Jeff here. Hope you're all doing well. You know, common sense would say that that's way too early in the year to get this deep into Supercoach. But for us Supercoach super fans, we can talk about it all day long, right? And I love it. My last video was my team reveal, and if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend go check it out. I detail the reasons why I've picked the team that you're looking at right now. Apologies for the sound quality in that video too, by the way. Hopefully this is much better. So in this video, I'll be going through other premiums and value picks that I'm definitely considering for my team. So starting out in defense, you can see I've picked Dacos, Sicily, and Young. When I'm actually picking my team, I'm all about trajectory, the upward trend when I'm picking players. Dacos, Sicily, Sarong, Green, for example, have all increased their average over the last few years. So when I'm starting out my Supercoach team, I'm looking for these kinds of players. Tom Stewart is definitely a worthy consideration. He was 24 when he played his first AFL game because he was drafted as a 23-year-old. He averaged 100, 107, 109 and 113 in his last 4 years. So he's got that upward trend, that trajectory, but he will be 31 when the season starts. So the question is can he average higher again this year? I'm not sure. There are whispers that he may get more midfield time, and if he does, then he could push that average up to 115, maybe even 117. Luke Ryan had the best average of his career last season at 109. With Hayden Young moving into the midfield, he may get more kickouts and get more ball down back. And he also has the round 13 bye, which also helps. Fremantle and Port both have that bye, and if you've got players from Fremantle and Port, they're going to be really handy when the byes come around in round 14 and 15. So he's a decent pick. Now, Jack Sinclair, we know what we're getting with Jack Sinclair. He averaged 113 2 years ago, but then he dropped off to 106 last year. Maybe the addition of Wanganeen Malira might have impacted his game. He played more defensive mid though, which I assume that will be his role again this year. He did average 119 in his last 6 games last year, and he averages 116 when the Saints win. So do you see the Saints winning more games this year? Because if they do, then Jack Sinclair's average is going to go up by about at least 10 points. So he may have 10 points upside there. He's also reliable. Hardly missed a game the last 3 years too. So he's a solid premium and one to think about. Dan Houston also has that good upward trend. Averages of 86, 99 and 106 in his last 3 years. At 26 years of age, could he go up to 110 and above this year? He's got a good ceiling, high score of 176 last year. Played a little bit more forward mid last year, which has certainly helped his scores. So yeah, definitely one to consider. Now looking at Nick Newman, if Zach Williams holds down a position in defence, which we're all hoping he will, then that may impact his scores. So I'm not really thinking about him, but Harry Sheezel, I am definitely considering. Will likely play half back again with a bit of time in the middle. He said that he took a lot of inspiration from what Nick Dacos was able to achieve in his second year. So expect Sheezel to comfortably crack that 100-point average. Jaden Short, I know that there are some teams considering him. I just don't think he'll ever crack that 100-point average. They're saying that he's going back to halfback, but when he played predominantly halfback in 2021, he averaged 98. And then he averaged 98 last year when he played more mid. He'll be 28 years old when the season starts, and with a new coach, maybe there's some upside, but I don't really see it. So I'm thinking about him, but yeah, it's unlikely. Jake Lloyd, I think he's past it. Jordan Ridley. The thought is with McKay in the team now, Ridley will go back to that loose man intercept defender from a few years ago. The thing with that is in 2020, which was the COVID year, the year where many players' averages were inflated, he only averaged 102. But excluding that year, He averaged 99 in 2021 and he averaged 95 last year. I was keen on him, but looking at those numbers, I'm just not really sure anymore. Hayden Young, I think he's a great pick, playing in the midfield. He's got upside, no early buy, round 13 buy, so he's a definite pick, I think, for me. Whitfield, so his last 7 games last year, he averaged 110, and that's what we're all hoping to get with Whitfield. His best season averages were 104 and 111 from around 4 or 5 years ago. But at 29 years of age now, I just don't think we're going to get more from him. If he can push that 110, that would be great, but I just really don't see it happening. With players around this price range from about 500k and down, we're really looking at players that have that 10 to 20 point upside. Closer to that 20 point upside is what we're really hoping for, if at all possible. And I think Will Powell has the ability to really boost his average. He went 77 from an average of 77 to 92 last year, and if he holds down a full-time position at half-back, then I reckon there's a chance that he could improve his average at least by 10 points anyway. Angus Brayshaw. Now, if Clayton Oliver doesn't line up in round 1, does Brayshaw fill his role in the midfield? And if so, and he plays exclusively in the middle, then I think he could be a bargain. Otherwise, I don't think I would be selecting him this season. Going down a bit further, Nazaya Wanganeen-Milera. Now, he's priced at an average of 85, but in his last 14 games, he averaged 95 when he got more of a defensive mid role, even pushing forward. So there could definitely be some value in picking him. Down a little bit further, Alex Witherden. Now, we know he did well in Brisbane. He came over to West Coast hoping that he would have the same role and everything, but Shannon Hearn was there, and that's impacted his role and his scoring. But now with Shannon Hearn retired, does he have another 10 points upside in him? Yes, I'm not really sure. He might. I think I'll definitely keep a close eye on him. A player I am definitely considering, Harry Himmelberg. Priced at an average of 80, he's had some plus 100 scores when he's played exclusively in defence, but also some average scores when he's played in defence as well. And I put that down to him being switched from different positions during a game and from game to game, and thus not being able to find stability and consistency in one role, in one position. However, this year, he's already come out and said that this pre-season will be his first full pre-season down back, with the idea of playing a full season in defence. So there could be 10 to 15 points upside here, and maybe even more. So he's one to watch for sure. Scrolling down a little further, look, there's probably some players that I am skipping that you may consider decent picks. Just based on some of the research at this stage, these are just the players that I'm considering bringing into my team. I'm pretty happy with my team, to be honest. So these are my backups just in case something happens or something goes wrong with some of these players that I've picked. And Kitty Coleman, he was one that I was considering from the start. He averaged 87 in 2022, then 71 during the regular season last year. But he's caught everyone's eye because of his final series games against Carlton and Collingwood last year, where he averaged 127. Now, he's not getting that every week, but priced at 71, taking over from Daniel Rich, and the fact that Brisbane love getting the ball into his hands, could there be 20 points upside here? Now, if you believe that, then he's definitely a starter. I really wanted to try and get him into my team, but I just couldn't afford him. So for now, he's not in my team. Scrolling a bit further here, and I've heard some speak about Josh Weddle. Now, he averaged 67 in his first year of AFL last year, you'd want him to be getting 85 or above, I think, at that price. And I'm not sure whether he will produce that this year, maybe next year. There is a player I'm also definitely considering a lot more seriously than some of these others, and that is Heath Chapman, 251k. Now, he looks like he's priced at an average of 45. He averaged 76 in 2022 from 15 games. Now, there's talk that he'll line up on the wing this year. Ideally, we want him lining up at halfback, but either way, priced at 45, he's definitely got at least 20 points upside. I'll be watching him very closely during the preseason to see where Longmuir is playing him. And just another player here, I think this is the last, or one of the last players I'll look at in defence, James Trezise. I think because he got that 93 in his only game last year, that's why everyone's got their eye on him. He's priced at an average of 37. We'd be wanting him to play every game with a guaranteed position, that job security. And I think we'd be looking at an average of 60 to 70 from him, hopefully. That's what we would want. So I don't know whether I'm going to start him. I'll be probably waiting until he plays his first 2 games before his price rise. Just to see how he's gone in those early rounds, and if he's had a couple of good scores, I think I would then be looking at bringing him in. As far as some expensive rookies are concerned, we could probably look at Daniel Curtin and also Josh Gibcus. I think they're 2 expensive rookies that might get regular games throughout the year, but again, they're ones to watch over the preseason. So moving on to the midfield. Now, as you can see, I've got LDU, Sarong, Green, Walsh, Miller. I think they're all heavily underpriced. Some definite upside in all of those mids. But I've gone through them in my last video, which you can check out. But I think many will be looking at Bontempelli. Now he's priced at 724k, averaged 129, 130 last year. He's just an absolute top dollar premium, captain choice every week, but he's just a little bit too pricey. I mean, look, he's averaged 9 points more than the next midfielder, so yeah, we all know he's a gun. But to start a player at top dollar, I always like to start value picks. So I'm just hoping that at some point he drops in price. I know it's unlikely, but hopefully, that does happen. Moving on, Clayton Oliver. I actually was thinking of starting him. He was in my plans. Now, we all know the struggles Oliver has been dealing with. We wish him the best, and we hope that he's able to find some peace with the challenges he's facing. But it is looking like he may not be there round 1. Now, having said that, round 0 is still 2 months away. So anything can happen in those 2 months' time. So I'll be keeping an eye out for Oliver, because I do like him as a player. I still think he's underpriced. Even though he averaged 120, 121 last year, I reckon there's a few points more that he can go. And he's a great captain choice as well. Christian Petrarca, I think he'll average about the same, that 120 mark. He's probably got a few points upside as well. Rory Laird. He definitely has a few points upside, I think. Now, I got caught out with that 50 in round 1 last year, and I had the C on him as well. That just killed the start of my Supercoach team. Hopefully you avoided that. He did average 128 in 2022. He's priced at an average of 117, so he actually might be a pretty good pick. Another player that I like, actually, Merritt, Nick Dacos, if you want to start him in the midfield, Libba, Dawson, Dunkley, all these players, they've got upside. They're gun players, no problems picking them. Zach Butters, though, I am thinking about him. Now, he's priced at an average of 114. He could definitely average close to that 120 mark this year. And he has the round 13 bye and no early bye. So all positive signs for Butters. So definitely looking at him, and I think he is underpriced as well. I have gone with Luke Davies-Luuniak, that LDU, that's who I'm picking. But there's a lot of love for Errol Goulden, and rightly so. He was the very definition of a third-year breakout, jumped 26 points from an average of 85 to 111. That's just awesome, and can't argue with anyone starting him, although he does have the round 5 bye, so that's something to just keep into consideration. Or take into consideration. Caleb Sarong and Green, they're the ones that I'm probably going to go with. Lachie Neale, can he get back to that 120 to 130 average? Andrew Brayshaw, consistent. I've gone with Sarong, but Brayshaw just as good, consistent as well. Chera, Parrish, they're young, they have upside. Same with Connor Rosie and Tim Taranto and Anderson, all young players with upside. I am picking Sam Walsh. He's experienced, had a good final series. If he's have a full preseason behind him, that'll be great. I reckon he can go at least 10 points above his average. Matt Rowell is an interesting one. I actually can't believe he ended up averaging over 100. I just didn't expect that. But I do think he can actually average about 105 to 110 this year. He's got a good ceiling, scored 159 and 165 last year, and he could be a good pod. He does have the round 3 bye though. So you may want to wait till he's played those first 3 games and hope that his average or his points haven't really gone up. His average hasn't gone up, so his price hasn't gone up if you are picking him as a pod. But, look, I guess you could just start him as well, so then you don't have to worry about all that. Josh Kelly, he'll be a popular pick again this year. Warner, he's got upside as well. Jai Newcomb, he'll be an interesting pick. He's one of those players also with a really good trajectory, upward trend. Averaged 87 in 2022 and then 98 last year. So could he average 105 plus, this year? Maybe. Will Day. Oh, what a pick that was last year. 32-point jump last year. Unbelievable. Hopefully you got onto that. And I think he should crack that 100-point average this year. Jordan DeGoey, I think he'll also crack the 100-point average. Jack Steele, though, I am looking at him. I'll be keeping an eye on him for sure over the preseason. He averaged 126 only 2 to 3 years ago. He's priced at an average of 95, so he might be a good pick, especially considering that he carried an injury, or possibly injuries, all through last year. He did have an ankle clean out and will resume full-time training sometime in January, so we'll see how he hits round 1. Now, I know that there are some of you, or many of you out there, that when you're picking your teams, you don't like to pick players that have had an interrupted preseason. And that's definitely understandable because, when you see some of these players that don't have a full preseason, they start round 1 and they're just not able to hold form throughout the whole year because they're still a little bit sore because they just never did a proper full preseason from their previous injury or whatever the case was. So understandable if you don't pick those types of players. It does mean though that you wouldn't be picking Bont or English as well because they haven't had full preseasons, and I think they start full-time training sometime in January as well. So that's where we got to try to find that balance and that payoff. But personally, as I mentioned in my last video, I'm going to be starting with my best team and hopefully ride out those early buys and come out okay at the end of them. Next person I'm considering is Matt Crouch. Now, he averaged 110 in 2017 and then 110 in 2020, but that was the COVID-inflated scores year. Now, he's priced at an average of 88, but he averaged 108 in his last 6 games when he came back into that team and played in the midfield. Now, we'll have to keep a lookout for his role in the team and his job security, and if those things check out, then he's definitely a value pick. Now, next in line that I'm having a look at or taking into consideration is Jason Horne-Francis. Now, I know that some of you might be thinking, no way I am picking him. Yes, he is a gamble, but there is potential for him to pay off in a huge way. Averaged 63 in his first year and 77 last year. Now, he had a rough first year at North, and then last year he was adjusting to a new game plan and playing exclusively in the middle for the first time in the AFL. With another full preseason at Port, he'll be fitter, stronger, and he'll be more comfortable in that midfield. He also doesn't play round 0, so no early bye, and he has that good round 13 bye as well. So priced at 77, I could see him averaging 95 for the year. He'll likely be a pod 2, so I don't think he'll be picked by many coaches. And I actually currently have him in my AFL fantasy side. I was hoping to try and get him into my Supercoach team, but I just couldn't afford him. I couldn't fit him in. But I do have him in my fantasy team. And incidentally, I will be dropping my AFL fantasy team reveal video soon, so keep an eye on that. Moving on, and Cam Guthrie. I think he's an interesting pick for this year. Some are considering him, I know that. He averaged 103, but that was, again, in the COVID inflated scores year of 2020. But then he went on to average 113 and 109. Now, he didn't start too well last year before he got injured, but he is priced at an average of 75, and he'll be the Cats' prime midfielder. But he will start the season at 31 years of age. Does he have 20 points upside in him? I'm not sure. Maybe not. But yes, I am considering him though still. Moving on to Ben Hobbs. Now, I really like the look of him. He is primed for a third-year breakout. Averaged 59 and then 74 in his first 2 seasons in the AFL. Now, he played mostly midfield and wing last year, but I actually think this year he'll spend less time on the wing and more time in the midfield. He'll be a good pod. I can't see him being picked by many teams. I can see many Essendon supporters getting on him though. And I think that he could have another 15 to 20 points upside in him this year. So again, he could be a really good pick. Just can't afford him in my team, but I think he'll be a good pick this year. Now, there are a few decent players through here. Callahan, Phillips, Ward. I think some might pick that have some potential. Isaac Cumming, not sure what happened to him. He's dropped off in a huge way. I think there's a few players here, I reckon, that might be of value. Stevens and Winhager. We'll have to have a look at their roles, their job security, but again, they could present some value. Sheldrick, I definitely would have picked him if he was about 70 to 100k cheaper, but yeah, I'm going to be giving him a miss this season. I think we'll see how he goes this year. But down to Sam Berry. What happened to Sam Berry? Obviously just fell out of favour, I guess. But he averaged 46 in 2021 and then 87 in 2022. A 41-point jump. That is huge. Averaged 93 AFL fantasy points in the Sandful last year. Now he's priced at an average of 40, and I know what you're thinking. We've got Dawson, Laird, Crouch in the midfield. You got Sloan, Rochelle, and even maybe Keys rotating through there. So yes, I can't see Berry getting a game. But if by some chance he's lining up round 1 in the midfield at an average of 40, he may be an expensive rookie that's worth having in your team. I know I will be bringing him in if he's lining up in round 1 in the midfield. But yes, it is unlikely. With our rucks, so Gawn and Grundy, of course, I'm going with. And I can't see myself changing that too much. I like the value there. But if you're going to start with Tim English, well, he's as secure as a set and forget ruck gets. So yeah, you can't argue with that. Look, he averaged 128 last year. He's a captain choice every week. He's a ruck, so he's never getting tagged. He scored 88, 90, and 99 last year. They were his lowest scores. Every other score was above 100. And some of those scores included a score of 143, 145, 156, 163, and 173. He is a super duper premium. Yes, he's costly, but he's also peace of mind for a consistent score and a captain score as well. Rowan Marshall, it was his first year without Paddy Ryder, and he really stepped up. I don't see him slowing down. In his first year rucking solo, he gets 114 point average. Definitely, he could get up to that 120 mark for sure, in my opinion. Sean Darcy, Big Shrek. Personally, I think there's better value at that price. But if Luke Jackson gets injured, and we're not wanting an injury, we don't, but if by some chance Luke Jackson gets injured, then Sean Darcy becomes a serious consideration. Darcy has put up some huge numbers when rucking solo. So if Jackson does go down for a period of time, then Darcy is a serious consideration. The other one that we're looking at here is Tristan Xerri, a very popular pick. He'll be highly owned. Rucking solo this year with Goldstein moving to Essendon, priced at an average of 73, and he scored 102 and 75 in the 2 games last year that Goldstein wasn't playing. Now, there's an expectation that he'll score well because he's rucking solo, and certainly that could be the case. But we also have to consider that just because he's rucking solo doesn't mean he's guaranteed to score well. There are a number of ruckmen in the AFL who ruck solo who aren't big scorers. Just look at Sam Draper, for example. Xerri scored 102 and 75 without Goldstein in the side last year. That's a small sample size for what he could potentially do. But yeah, look, I understand the pick, but personally, I'd prefer to pay up with my rucks. I want more of a sure thing with my rucks. A set and forget, I guess I prefer those. I think Gawn and Grundy are a set and forget for this year. But I can also see the Grundy-Xerri combo and coaches out there using up that freed cash to spend in the rest of their team. As far as rookie rucks go, I'm definitely considering Conway here and Jordan Sweet. If they're lining up round 1, then I think that they are definitely worth the pick on the bench, because as we know, the way to Supercoach success is making cash off your rookies. So if either one of them are playing round 1, I probably will try and squeeze them in there. Possibly I may have to get that cash off Jingby, pick another player there, and then pick Conway or Sweet or even Naismith if he's playing there, if he's playing round 1. So going to our forward line, so you can see I've got McRae, Flanders and Adams. That's likely who I'll be starting with. I may go Flanders and Adams and maybe save some cash on McRae and pick another player. But yeah, when you look at this premium list here for forwards, there's really not a lot to pick from, is there? You've got McRae, but there's really nothing else. I mean, I don't see a lot of upside, I should say, in some of these players. I mean, Dylan Moore, there's a chance that he could get a little bit of upside there with him, get back to how he was scoring from a few years ago. Luke Jackson, though, you would have to consider if Darcy somehow gets injured. I mean, that's how it works with both of them. If one of them gets injured, the other one just scores so well. So if Sean Darcy happens to go down for a period of time, then we'll all be jumping on Luke Jackson. In the 8 games that Jackson played without Darcy last year, he averaged 118, and that included a score of 173. Now, there's not much else to say other than that, but I do think that many coaches will go light in their forward line and use that cash elsewhere, and then hope that some midfielders get forward status during the season, and that's understandable. But there are some good value picks in the forward line that we may want to consider, and so that's starting with Tom Lynch. Now, he's priced at an average of 51. He's averaged in the 70s and in the 80s in the past, and averaged 94 in 2022. No revolt this year too, so there could be 20 points upside or more. He is 31 this year, however, and recovering from a foot injury that saw him miss most of last season. The Tigers have said that they're expecting him to be fit for round 1, but he is very much a high-risk, high-reward type player. So just keep an eye on him during the preseason if you're keen to pick Tom Lynch. You'll see here that there is these other players like James Jordan as well, and James Harms, Devin Robertson, Elijah Sardis, Jack Billings. They're all around the same price, and one of them or even all of them could be value picks, but we'll just need to keep a closer eye on them during the preseason. But with Jordan, Robertson, and Billings, they have the early buy. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because it means that we get to see them in round 0. So we get to see their role, their job security, how they perform. But if we pick them, we'll have to bite that early buy bullet as well. But it could pay off in the long run. Fantasia is another player I'll be looking at as an expensive rookie, but everything has to go right for me to pick him. He's got to have a full preseason, lining up round 1, positive talk around him as well for me to pick him. But we'll see how we go. But for the last pick, the last player that I want to talk about, and that's Finn McRae. Now, I know many super coaches are talking about him. It appears that he will be getting more game time, and I do think he'll play, but I don't think he's going to be playing every week. His price is 150 to 153k. I just think that for the risk, it's just not worth it if he's not playing every week. If you look at that Collingwood Grand Final team, how does he get into that side? Ash Johnson comes in for Billy Frampton at full forward because McStay is injured for the season. Schultz comes in for Ginnivan. I can't see the Pies dropping anyone else from that grand final team. Not to mention, John Noble deserves to get back into that team as well. I think that there'll be better, cheaper, and more consistent rookies to pick other than McRae. So that's it, guys. That's some of these premiums and value picks that I am considering. I have to say I am pretty settled with my team, my premium players, as you saw earlier. But anything can happen. Things can change. But I will be revisiting these picks as I release my upcoming team update videos over the next couple of months. Be sure to check out my Supercoach team reveal video as well. And if you play fantasy, my fantasy team reveal video will be out soon too. See you guys. Thanks again for watching, and catch you soon.